Every day it seems that another potential Diamondback gets signed to play with a different team. And with each signing, the market shrinks and the cost goes up. What are the D-backs likely to do, and will it be enough to remain competitive in 2026?
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I am your host, Daynen Biggs. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. I wanted to start the show off. I like doing this at the beginning of the show, though sometimes I either forget or there's just not really anything super applicable to share up top, but I want to share a handful of comments from yesterday's episode. I do read every single comment. I try and respond to as many of them as I can, but some of them don't really need much of a response. So I'll just, heart it. But anyway, if you want to reach me, the best way to do that is to comment on the YouTube channel. We don't get so many comments that I don't get the chance to read them all. Not yet, at least. Hopefully someday we will be at that level of success. But for now, it's easy to reach me. I wanted to highlight really quickly Tig, who has a very cute profile picture of a dog. And he says, getting Alcantara, because yesterday we talked about how the Diamondbacks could be a part of a totally hypothetical 7-team trade that would result in us giving up Alec Thomas and LeGroover for to put in there, and then we would get in return Sandy Alcantara. So a pretty good deal for us, to be completely honest. And he says, getting Alcantara is a safe trade for the D-backs, similar, especially if it turns out that way. Similar to Naylor in the sense that if they aren't in playoff contention, they can always trade him, and there's a good chance he has higher value at the deadline, which I had not considered. Getting somebody on a 1-year deal or who has 1 year left on their contract, if the Diamondbacks are competitive, then they can hold on to them the whole year, and they're making a push, and that's great, even if it is just for the 1 year. And if they're not competitive, they have one more trade token, one more high leverage player that they can offer. So that is a very good point. A little bit of like a silver lining situation, obviously, but still, I think great way to look at it, actually. There were a handful of people also commented on just like, why would the Guardians do this? Sounds terrible, which of course it does, because this is all a funny hypothetical, but that's all good. And then we also had some discussions in the comments about Alec Thomas and Locklear and Lawler, and how they need to be traded for good pitching. This is from CA. And while they're at it, release Tawa and Barossa, who CA does not like Tim Tawa or Barossa, his comments in many of the videos. And Tig actually responded to this comment as well. And I think he put it very well. Barossa has a chance, but he needs a full season. I agree. I think he's absolutely. And CA is right. He says they're not major league talent. They're minor leaguers at best. Yeah, you're right. They are minor leaguers. And so I want to have somebody in the outfield so that Barossa doesn't have to be out there, so he can continue to develop and come up as needed and everything like that, but continue to develop and get reps and everything. Or we just throw him right into the fire and go, here you go, figure it out, which also works sometimes. And then, however, I think that you're right. I think we need as much pitching as possible. And even if they're not like ace caliber pitchers, which we would not get for Thomas or Locklear or Lawler or McCarthy, we could get something. And that's what we need, is just anything right now. So that's probably not a bad bet. Anyway, that is just a little bit of a recap from yesterday. So again, Thank you so much for commenting. If you haven't seen yesterday's episode or listened to it, just go check it out. It's kind of fun. We talk about some fun stuff. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about some new signings that have taken place in the pitching realm and how that affects us, because it super does. And we're going to be talking about kind of just some off-season things to look out for. I called this section off-season woes. It's not woes necessarily, but it is a little bit. It's something to keep in mind. And then finally, I wanted to talk about the Diamondbacks just announced the new season pass. So if you have not heard about this or did not know about this, we're going to talk about that too. It's a smoking deal. Very, very cool. Very cool. So we'll talk about that to end the show today. So we're missing out on closers. Closers are getting signed left and right. Now, if you didn't know, if you didn't know, right now it's time to sign free agents. And there's quite a handful of free agents on the market. There are, according to SpotTrack.com, which is a great website that kind of shows you what a player's estimated value is and what their past signings have been and everything. There are 147 available pitchers on the market right now. Are all of them going to get signed? No. One of those is Jordan Montgomery, which he'll probably actually get signed, but he's not going to make $25 million a year like he was with us. It's getting hot in here. He'll probably make something like $2.5 million, and but 147 are available. 11 have signed a deal so far. Most recently, the one to sign a deal is Devin Williams of the New York Yankees. Actually, is Williams on here? He is on here. Yes. Okay, great. So Devin Williams, the relief pitcher and closer for the Yankees, has moved downtown a little bit and is now going to be playing for the Mets. On Monday, which was yesterday, weeks are weird since Thanksgiving, the Mets signed a 3-year, $45 million contract with Devin Williams, which included a $6 million signing bonus, I want to say. And so basically $50 million. He is essentially going to be making $16.6 million a year. So that kind of sets that. Now, recently, the Braves re-signed their closer, Iglesias. I'm afraid to say his first name because I mispronounced it, and that was embarrassing. And my dad basically disowned me for mispronouncing his name, and now I'm just scared because I can't remember which one it was. I totally figured it out, but I forgot. But they signed him to a 1-year, $16 million deal. So $16.6 million for Williams, 16 for Iglesias, and the Orioles landed Ryan Helsley on a 2-year, $28 million, which is $14 million per year. So right here, we're looking at $14 million, $16 million, $16.6 million. And the thing is, none of those guys had a good 2025 season. Like, all three of them struggled in 2025. Williams and Helsley particularly had bad years. So, I mean, obviously, all three of these pitchers are very good and talented pitchers. And so everybody is banking on the fact that this is probably a down year and that they're going to be better next year and they're going to be better in the long run and all that kind of stuff. But when the pitchers coming off of a bad season are getting $14, $16 million deals, $16 million or $16 million a year deals, and the Diamondbacks only have $25 to $40 million to spend. And if they only needed 1 or 2 players, then that's fine. But they don't. They need quite a lot more than that. They need 2 relief pitchers, 2 starting pitchers. They need a first baseman. They need a third baseman and or an outfielder who can bat right-handed. That is 7 players, right? I have to count on my fingers. That's 6 to 7 players that they need to sign, which means on average, yeah, they're going to be giving like $5 million per player, 5 to 7 million per player. That's not very good, especially when teams are out here signing pitchers who had off seasons, bad seasons for 14 to 16 million dollars a year. So what this tells me is the Diamondbacks are basically out of the running for any top line relief pitcher or starter. They're going to need to get scrappy and they're going to need to get creative. And I'm going ahead and share real quick with you all the players who have signed and what they're expected to make versus how they were. So there's 3 different levels, I'd say, to the pitchers who have signed. So there are 11 pitchers who have signed a deal. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them have re-signed with their previous team. The other 7 are signed to a new team. Dylan Cease is going to be the highest paid of these 11 players, and he is going to be making $30 million a year, roughly. And that's a 7-year, $210 million contract. Dylan Cease is also a pitcher who didn't have his best year. So that's kind of crazy. And then the next highest paid is going to be Helsley, who is going to be getting $14 million. Or sorry, he's not the next highest. He is the third highest. The second highest is Iglesias, who's going to be getting 16. Both Iglesias probably had the best of the 3 there. The next highest is going to be for $7.25 million, and it is going to be Phil Maton. And by the way, you guys, name pronunciations are difficult. I just said pronunciations. I know that's wrong, but it makes sense. And so I say that one on principle. But sorry, Dad. But sorry for the name mispronunciations. But let's go ahead and look at Maton. Did he have a good season? Did he do pretty well? Well, let's see. He is probably, I think, maybe the best of the lot here. He is a relief pitcher, pitched in 63 games, had a 2.79 ERA. He was on the Rangers, who had one of the best pitching stats of the season. Had a 4-5 record, which for a relief pitcher is not bad. 81 strikeouts in 61 innings pitched. So this is like who at the beginning of the offseason, I'm like, I want to sign somebody like this. I think the Diamondbacks need to sign a really good relief pitcher like this. But before we could, the Cubs swept him up and gave him a 2-year, $14.5 million contract, being $7,250,000 per year, which that doesn't, I mean, that's probably about where we could, I mean, that's probably the limit of what we could do for a single player. So Phil Maton, let's look at players who are on his level of like what to expect. And then everybody else is $2.5 million per year or less. And they're all also on 1-year contracts. And the rest of these guys are, I was going to go through them, but I'm not going to individually. But all of these guys that makes up 6 pitchers so far. All 6 of these pitchers to sign for less than $3 million are minor league fringe players, are players who got cut by their team, are players who just aren't, yeah, they're not completely reliable. They're coming off of a fully, like they weren't very good, and then they missed the entirety of 2025. So if we're thinking, okay, well, let's just spend like $1 to $3 million on a handful of relief pitchers, according to this, we're not going to get much from that. So if we want relief pitchers, if we want to sign any relief pitchers, the least we have to do is basically spend $7 million on a year on a pitcher. So that's why people are saying, including myself, I'm a people, I can say this, that if the Diamondbacks want legitimate players, they need to trade for them. So let's go ahead and take a little break, and then we will talk a little bit more about that, because the Diamondbacks do have a strategy, I believe, and it actually could work. So we're going to talk about that right after this break. Stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. NFL Sundays move fast, and one big play, suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets on as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, and keep it and more. And it keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit fanduel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. And we're back, and I wanted to say, as always, thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen of the day. It really does mean the world to me. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. So, what exactly is the Diamondbacks' plan for this offseason? Well, I'm going to go ahead and reference who, as I've said before, is my best friend. I'm not his best friend because he doesn't really know I exist, but my best friend, Alex D'Agostino from Arizona Diamondbacks on SI, he has an article that he put out there that I think summarizes everything very, very well. And by the way, Alex, who I know is listening, let's have you on the show, because at this point, it's basically your show. I'm just hijacking all of your content. So anyway, but he says a lot of things that, like, kind of we've been saying here too, is one, he believes that Ketel Marte is going to stay in Arizona. And the reason that he thinks that this is going to happen is the same thing that we've been saying, is because nobody's going to give us what we would want in return for Marte. We're not going to sell cheap for him. We're not trading for scraps just because we need him off the team, you know? I do think, and he suggests that perhaps the Arizona does end up shopping him around a little bit, even though they've claimed that is not happening, and insider information has said that that hasn't happened. I wouldn't be surprised if that does happen a little bit. Like, hey, you mentioned you were interested. Are you thinking about, just little things like that? I don't think the Diamondbacks want to come off as eager to get rid of him, because then that's when teams can be like, well, yeah, we'll give you some prospects and you can give them to us. So that's not what's happening. And honestly, yeah, I think if another baseball team does want him, it's a team that is lacking offense but overflowing with pitching, which there is one team I wanted to mention today that I think kind of fits that bill. I don't know that it would happen, but I wanted to bring it up. So we'll bring it up here in just a second. Number 2, the Diamondbacks will stick to smaller moves. Absolutely. They don't have the money to do a big move. They could. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I would be a little surprised. I'd be pretty surprised, but it wouldn't completely come out of nowhere if the Diamondbacks were to sign somebody like Imai from Japan as a starting pitcher. If the Diamondbacks meet with him and it just looks like, oh, this is going to work out, we're going to have to dish out a lot of money for him, but he wants to play here. We want him here, and this is going to be a great deal and a great long-term investment. Ken Kendrick has said, like, if the deal is right, we're going to take it. Like, even if it does increase our payroll. which, if I recall correctly, that's the same thing he said last year. That now, I wasn't doing this podcast, which also means I wasn't following off-season trends as closely as I am right now. But from what I understand, last year he was like, "Oh yeah, we're bringing the payroll down. We're not bringing it up." And then the Corbin Burns deal happened, and he's like, "We're jumping on that." And then the payroll jumped. So if something does happen, like I said, I would be very surprised, and that would be pretty crazy. But it would not. It's not unheard of, and it actually could happen. But barring that possibility, I think that the Diamondbacks will sign, like, with that 25 to 40 million that they have to spend still. They'll probably sign 4, 5, 6 players, maybe a little bit. The more players they sign, the less they're spending on them, and therefore the less valuable they are. But the more players they sign, the less of a risk they're putting on each individual player. So it'll probably be a little bit more on that side of, we just need to fill roles, not necessarily with ace pitching or gold glove defense or silver slugger offense. So that's probably what's going to happen. And then, because the Diamondbacks don't have a lot to trade for, they have Marte, but I don't think anybody's going to be willing to pay what he's worth. We have Lawler, who's probably our second best option, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does get traded, and we could probably get something fairly well for him. But then, Alec Thomas, Jake McCarthy, other prospects, that's probably the extent of what we're going to see leave the team, which means we're going to get roughly equivalent back. So there's not going to be a huge, like, oh my gosh, breaking news, the Diamondbacks just traded Corbin Carroll for Shohei Ohtani. That's not happening. That was wild. Sorry, I just came up with that off the top of my head. Please don't yell at me in the comments, or do. It's good for engagement. And so that's probably what's going to happen there. And then his third remark is no major Diamondback reunions, which he's referring to Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, or Eugenio Suarez, which an article was posted also yesterday, I believe. Yeah, last night, about a prediction that Suarez will re-sign with the Diamondbacks for a 3-year, $70 million deal. Now, it would be awesome to have him back. Offensively, that would be very nice, and he'd fill that third base spot very well, and he could always go to DH if offensively or defensively he's struggling. But 3 divided by 70, I'm not very good at math, but that's at least 20. So that's 23.3. So $23 million a year, and we have 25 to 40 available. I guess if the Diamondbacks, if they find a bunch of just low pay, if they just pick up a bunch of guys off waivers or something, and then they want to go with this route, I guess they could, but I don't think that feels very smart. So I think it's likely that we will not sign Suarez unless he takes a huge cut. I don't think it's likely that Zach Gallen will be back unless he takes a huge cut. And then Merrill Kelly is also seeming like it's not going to be likely, because these pitchers are signing for as much as they are. His value continues to just go up. Like, it used to be, like, I think Spot Track had him at like 8, then 12 million. And now he's sitting at 15.7 million a year. Like, that's more than we can really spend. Now, I mean, if it really, really, really needs to happen, which I know the fan base would love that would be super cool. And he would be a nice, stable arm to have in the rotation. But again, 15 million, if you could sign 2 fairly good relievers for that price, I think I would rather that, and then take our chances on trades for the starting pitcher. I don't know. That's all things to consider. And so, but like for half that price, Spot Track estimates that you could get like Gregory Soto, who was on the Mets. We could sign Justin Verlander, or I wouldn't do that. That would be Max Scherzer's close to that as well. Actually, he's at $8 million according to Spot Track. Patrick Corbin is at $5.5 million. He might be an interesting option. He's been he's been pretty good, so he might not be a bad one. You have David Robertson. Yeah, I'm just looking at the names now. So you got options is what I'm saying. And so that is just kind of that just kind of shows why maybe signing somebody for $15 to $23 million a year isn't the smartest move for the Diamondbacks right now. So I agree with Alex here. He says the article is titled 3 Predictions for the Rest of the D-Backs Season. And then he goes on to say, like, listen, it's not going to be sexy. It's not going to be crazy. There's another article that's called Be Prepared for This Disappointing D-Backs Reality, where he's just like, it's going to be kind of boring. There's not going to be any huge trades like there were last year signings. But that's not, the Diamondbacks just need to, again, adjust their pitching, get things working a little bit better, and continue the offense. And they've got a real shot, especially if they can just last until all of our players come back from injury, which hopefully they do speedily and they don't immediately return back to injury. So, which I know is a lot to ask. Anyway, we're going to take another short break, and then we are going to talk about this new or the announcement of the new D-Backs Season Pass, which I'm going to fill you in on all the information that you need to know. And I highly recommend you listen, because this sounds pretty cool. And it's just in time for the holidays. It's on sale. It's the sort of thing you can get like as a gift. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. So stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And welcome back. All right. Now, the Diamondbacks have, I believe it was yesterday, that they announced their season pass, and the tab closed. So now I have to pull it back up. This is so embarrassing. So here are the details. For $299, you can get the D-Backs Ballpark Pass. This isn't sponsored, by the way. This isn't an ad. Although, I mean, this is a Diamondbacks podcast. Of course, I want you to spend money on the Diamondbacks. But you can get the Diamondbacks Ballpark Pass for $299, and that gets you all home games for the entire season. That includes special occasions like opening day. That includes 2 exhibition matchups at Chase Field, which I believe are happening before the season. And that also includes, let's find this. That also includes, no, where did it go? Darn it. This includes things like special, you get all of the giveaways, you get part of that, you get access to special events, you get access to, and where did it go? Shoot, this is embarrassing. But yeah, you get access to a bunch. Oh, here it is. You get access to all giveaways, post-game events, and prime matchups, including opening day week. So that's a pretty killer deal. A lot of teams will do like ballpark passes, because these aren't like season member passes necessarily. Those, you get a specific seat, and you get, like, a lot of times you get free food, and you can sell your ticket to like internal, like you can sell your ticket to others and make money off of it and all that kind of stuff. You can do secondhand stuff like that. I don't know if you're supposed to, but I know people do. And where this, if you want to attend, you do have to reserve your spot. You basically have to say, I'm going to this series, or I'll be attending games in this series, and then they will send you through the ballpark app the ticket that you can then, and it'll be different seats every time. You can upgrade your seat to be in a different spot. You can pick a spot for a small price, I believe. And then you can also buy a second ticket if you want to go with a friend. That is not transferable. And so if it's for you, you can't give it to your buddy or work person. You can't sell it. you can't do any of that. But basically what that turns out to be, I mean, for 81 games plus 2 exhibition games, for 83 games, $299, that ends up being less than $4 per game. So that's pretty awesome. Now, again, there's parking and there's food and you're gonna buy hats and all that kind of stuff. I will for sure. And so obviously that's part of the case. But if you're the kind of person that you're like, I would go to every baseball game if, I love to go to as many baseball games as possible, this just might be the thing for you. Or if you have family or friends, coworkers, whoever that you think would love this is a pretty solid gift. Like, yeah, I'm thinking about getting this and then gifting it to like a ton of people. Of course, I don't have a ton of money, so maybe that won't happen, but I would love to. That would be awesome. And if my dad is listening, wink, wink, no, I'm just kidding. But don't worry, Dad, I'm just kidding. But anyway, this looks like a ton of fun. My brother did do this 2 years ago. I know that the price will go up here pretty soon. This is a limited time offer, and then the price will increase. And if it's like last year or the year before, as the season goes, they will continue to offer this, and it will decrease in price as the season goes on. But the best deal that you'll get is right now. So if you want to support the Diamondbacks and go to all home games, take a seat away from a Dodgers fan, then this might be the best time to do it. And I think that's fun. I don't know of many other teams that have such a good deal. I know that has been a big part with Ken Kendrick, Derek Hall have been really big on making it as affordable as possible to attend these baseball games. And last season, even though it didn't end super well, the energy and the fan base was just incredible. And I know that this next season is looking a little bit scary, but I'm optimistic for it. I think that it could be a great season, and all the more reason to go is to support the team and help things go, because the more energy they have in the ballpark, the better they perform. That's just the way it is. If you want to have a direct effect on the season, this might be your chance. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Once again, I love the comments and the discussions. You guys are so knowledgeable and smart about this team, and it's so fun to talk with people who are, dare I say, just as unhealthily obsessed with the Diamondbacks as I am. So please do continue to leave comments on the YouTube channel, and the YouTube videos is super great. Also, be sure to follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Locked On Diamondbacks. We're on YouTube, as I mentioned, as well as every other place you get podcasts. If you want to see more of me, you can find more of my YouTube channels and projects at my website, slackshack.tv. Thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen of the day. For your second listen, find the Locked On MLB podcast, where there is no offseason. Solely keeps you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed MLB fan. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thanks again, and I will see you tomorrow.